Hi, I am Anna Imagination with the Healing Garden. And it's been a while. I'm up to about 350 followers. So cute, I know. Thank you. And this is just me taking time out to say welcome. I've had a lot of growth for me, a lot of growth in the last 2 months alone. And I like to do these welcome videos on a regular basis because the new people they're really, really precious to me. The old people are really, really precious to me. But the new people, when you first get into a group, there's a lot of people who, I'm not, I've done this. You get into a group and you're just like, okay, what's going on here? And you're kind of, a lot of times you just kind of fall out. And I never liked that. And I always find that the groups where you walk in there and you get a welcome and then other people like run to greet you and say, hi, here's a sticker, here's a balloon. So this is my sticker and balloon. So, um, also, I've been sick for the last 4 days, 5 days. I don't know how long I've been sick. One moment. And as a result, I don't know where my hand sanitizer is, but it's okay because I'm alone. So as a result, I'm behind on videos and content, and um, I'm feeling a lot of energy come back, and it partnered with a lot that was going on. So I'm going to give you an overview. I'm going to like introduce myself, like because I'm always this faceless. There's a thing. There's like a graphic that blocks out my face. And while I'm ignoring my face, while I'm doing my own thing and I'm sitting here typing all the time, it's very easy as a hermit, as an introvert, to really pull out of the limelight. And I'm the weirdest introvert in the world because I am both an introverted extrovert and an extroverted introvert, but I am never just an extrovert and I am never just an introvert. I don't believe anyone is. That's not true. Yeah, it's all colors, all the colors, all the colors. So, where I want to start is, first of all, did you see the strawberry moon last night? Like, did anyone see the moon? I knew it was there. No, I didn't. I knew the moon was there, but I didn't know that it was going to be pink. And I'm like laying in bed, and the way our bedroom is set, I've got two windows, but I'm in a tent. Yeah, that's right. I live in a tent in my bedroom. I'm in my bedroom right now in a tent. I took this boho hippie thing with cuddle puddles to a whole nother level. So my daughter's laying there and she goes, "Oh my God, the moon is red." And as soon as she said it, I went, "Yeah, I read all that stuff on astrology and all the research about it being a strawberry moon. I didn't know it was literally going to be a strawberry." Well, yeah, it's a strawberry. So yeah, I'm looking like it's going to still be out there in the middle. Like, where is it now? I don't know about you, but for the majority of my life, the moon is not visible during the day. So I was like up at 2 a.m. last night, Googling strawberry moons and trying to take pictures, which did not turn out well. They never turn out well. I need to get a moon camera just for that purpose. So I have two sides to me. I have very much a supernatural witch side that focuses a lot on astrology and the energy healing arts. And this is where I'm studying to become a Reiki master. I play a lot with the energy. I am not new to the energy. The energy is my first language. Like, this is what I understand. And then on the other side of things is my serious side, my cycle. So, everyone's a spectrum. You're going to hear me say this a lot when you start watching my videos. Everything is on a spectrum, nothing is black and white. This includes me. I am a spectrum. And I have my very witchy side, my ethereal side. I'm an ethereal walker. That's what I call it because it sounds really awesome, like Star Wars. Ethereal walker. And then you have this other side of me, which is my very serious, very deep psychoanalytical stuff, where I get into psychology and the subconscious mind, and my philosophy side comes out. So when these things emerge and they come together, sometimes, I have days where I'm on this side of my spectrum. I have days where I'm on that side of the spectrum. I have days where I'm all over. And on the days where I'm silent and I rest, all this builds up, and then I vomit it all out into content in the internet. And this is my dream, is to just vomit all of my content into the internet and throw it all out there. So, welcome to the Healing Garden. It took me 5 minutes to say, welcome to the Healing Garden. I am your host and the creator and founder of the Healing Garden on Imagination. A little bit about where the Garden came from. I am the queen of the darkness. I mean that quite literally. I endured over 40 years of severe trauma to the point where trauma is a joke for me. Not literally a haha joke, but I've mastered it. Like I walk in and out of trauma like it's nothing. I'm I'm an ethereal walker. I'm a shadow walker. And I am so good at trauma recovery and managing trauma that I teach other people how to manage it. I show them this is my tricks. These are what I did. This is what I learned. This is how I utilized it. So I am just an informant who became so good at walking both sides of the world, the shadow realm and the light realm, that I pass in and out of both realms like it's nothing. And I've been doing this most of my life. And I'm now so efficient at it that people think I'm normal. That being said, it's all a ruse. It's all a ruse. I ended up in 2015 doing my own therapy. I went to therapy and I found out that it was so horribly inadequate that I built my own program to supplement talk therapy because talk therapy was a joke. I was a sex slave. I was prepped for trafficking. I was groomed. I had literally been raised by a family of narcissists. And then I befriended and was owned by I was owned. I had two owners and two husbands, and at times, very much at times, the husbands acted and behaved very much like my owners. And so I'm like, you think of a trauma, and I have endured almost every one of them. As a result, I walked away with multiple diagnoses, all of which are now resolved. So that whole there's no cure for borderline personality disorder. Yes, there is. Yes, there is. And I used to have multiple personality disorder, which is actually called dissociative identity disorder. Yeah, integrated. And yes, there's a cure. Cure. The word cure. And this is where there's a lot of people out there going, there's no cure. You can't actually cure these things. Resolved. They went away. I don't have it anymore. Um, so I went in 2015, I was diagnosed with PTSD. I had 44 triggers and I was a clinical shut-in for 20 years. That's right, you heard me right. I had 20 years of being a clinical shut-in where I lived in a bedroom in a little hole and I was terrified of even using the bathroom. And I lived inside my head for 34 years. My real name is Angela, and I was last Angela when I was 8 years old. So from the time I was 8 to 22 years old. Wait, what am I doing? 8 to 42 years old. 8 to 42. I lived inside my own subconsciousness, and it was my own prison. I'm doing the math now. So yeah, 34 years I lived inside my head. And when you live in your head that much, you learn it. So I'm really well versed in learning all the parts of the brain. I have struggled with depression. I have struggled with suicidal ideation. I have struggled with a lot. I don't want to get into it because that's going to move me downstream, upstream, and I don't want to go upstream. So, that all being said, I am a living example of they said that it couldn't be done, and here I am. When I meet people who are really in the middle, in the thick of their shadow work and they're discouraged and frustrated, I am the person that takes them into my arms and hugs them and says, "Look at me. I am your future. It's possible. I overcame everything. I overcame every mental disorder that you can possibly think of." Well, I didn't have narcissistic personality disorder. I did not have schizophrenia. They checked me for that also. But It's all the impossible is here. And I spent the majority, and I do mean the majority of my life, not doing drugs, not drinking alcohol, never cutting. I did it all with my tools and my psych work. So when I say I'm the queen of the darkness, I am. I own that shit. When I started I went on a um, walkabout. Walkabout is a term I picked up from Australia. The movie Australia, Walkabout. It's when in Australia, the Aborigines go on a thing of walkabout where the boys, as a coming of age, they go for 2 to 3 years on their own into the wilderness to grow and become a man. And when they come back, they're considered a man because they've completed their walkabout. I did something similar, and it's basically a stage in your life where you go find yourself. And I don't know if it can be done off road, but I backpacked through Manhattan. Oh, yeah, that's right. I backpacked through Manhattan for a year. I would drive my car into Manhattan. I'd park it in the Bronx or up uptown in Inwood or Washington Heights. That is far north Manhattan, by the way. And then I would grab my backpack and I would literally walk all over Manhattan with my backpack. And I did this for a year. It was a lot of fun. A lot of fun. I slept in Central Park. I did a lot. And I found myself. That's really, really what I did. I started to find myself. I found out who I could be. I found out what I was capable of. I found out exactly how strong I was. And I did that in 2020 and 2021. And when I was on my walkabout, it was like this year of just realizing how much I could do. It was realizing what you are capable of. And it's not until you test yourself that you realize exactly what you're capable of. It's like you don't believe it till you see it. And that was the year I saw it, that I realized, started to see, oh, wow, I'm strong. Now, I knew I was strong because you don't go through the shit I go through and not be strong. I am still looking for that person, but I am so far the only one I know of who was raped on 9/11, during 9/11, um, which is easily the biggest mind fuck I had to get over. And I did. And it's been an extraordinary life, a very colorful life. So I recorded, I went public with my healing in 2015. I wrote a book called Broken, which was basically a journal entry that depicted, this is my life. It is very much nonfiction. That being said, you read it, people read it, and they're like, wow, there's a lot of fantasy in here. Like, well, that's because I lived in my head and I was a fantasy author. I am a fantasy author. And I wrote this book, this memoir, the only way I knew how, in my head at the time, as my multiple alters, all taking turns writing the book, not realizing at the time that I was a multiple. And I depicted my story. And then there was this massive freedom. It's called secret keeping. Whenever you're abused, you are charged with the responsibility of keeping your secret keepers secret for them. It is a huge responsibility, and the abuser basically makes you the accomplice, their accomplice to their crime, making you feel like you are guilty because you participated as their secret keeper. And it's easily the hardest thing to overcome. So when I wrote Broken, I realized that I was actually freeing myself from the secret keeping, which is a huge part of healing, and which is why I am huge on encouraging people to talk about their traumas publicly if possible. Blog about it, post it. You don't have to tell the person who abused you, but tell somebody. And the reason why is because you are saying to that person, I'm not going to be your dirty little secret keeper anymore. I did not consent to the abuse, and I am not going to consent to the crime. And that's something that's not talked about. There's two parts to abuse. There's the abuse and then there's the crime. And an abuser requires a victim and their cooperation. And when you stop cooperating, You move from victim to survivor. That's the difference between victim and survivor. A victim cooperates, a survivor doesn't. And it starts with refusing to be their secret keeper. So in 2015, I not only told all, I published it. And it ended up getting a lot of praise. It was nominated for an award for the Wishing Shelf Book Award that year. And I ended up getting fan mail like I would never see. Letters from people from across the world saying they've read my book and they don't feel alone. And my book inspired them to seek out therapy and get help. That changed me. That is what we call transmuting trauma. And I realized that that is what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. That is what I do. And so, and I had a lot of people calling me up, friends, family members. No, I'm going to clarify this. The only family member of mine who called me up was actually my aunt. I got to think of her name. Wow. Yeah. This, by the way, is how much I have divorced my family. Misty, my aunt Misty, married into the family. She wasn't actually my family. She called me up, told me that she'd read my book, and she wanted to see if I was okay. So Aunt Misty is my family. No one else asked. No one else cared. Fuck everyone else. And learning exactly what your family's relationship is to your abuse. This is a touchy subject, but it's a real one. Realizing what your family's role in your abuse and understanding and processing exactly the role they played, whether it was the abuser themselves, the secret keeper, the sweep it under the rug, the turn the other way, the don't ask, don't tell. That makes them accomplices in your abuse. And I had to deal with that. That was easily the hardest thing because I am Irish, very Celtic in my heritage and in my energy. I am Celtic bound. And that to me is so solid of family and kin is everything. The clan, and that's it. I didn't have a family. I had a clan. It was huge. And I had the clan, but they didn't. They were not Celtic bound. I was. They had no sense of family. Too much English in their blood. I have a lot of English in me too. But my mom had Celtic. And for me, the Celtic blood turned on. For them, it didn't. So I ended up being treated like I was garbage. My brother's right to abuse me was prioritized over me, my safety, my survival, my mental health. So as the abuse went on, my brain warped into this machine to survive it. And my family all helped my brother, sided with my brother. I was the girl who walked around with black eyes and multiple personality disorder. I was the girl who was threatened and tortured and turned into a sex slave. And everybody knew. Everybody knew. And that is the role that my family played in my abuse. They were the ones to know everyone, it was common knowledge. And they did nothing. So for me, my demon, my truth, my ultimate truth that I had to accept was that my family doesn't give a fuck about me. None of them. Not my grandparents, not my aunts and uncles, not my siblings, and not my parents. Not one. The only one who cared even remotely was my Aunt Misty, who called me the one day to see if I was okay after I published a book about it. And she told me, you know, everyone knew. Yeah, I knew. She goes, everyone knew. In fact, when people met me, my family had a disclaimer. Oh, before you meet her, you need to know some things. So, this was me really having to wrap my head around this truth. I remember the first time I told my father I was raped. It was in 2015. I was 40 years old. I'm sorry, I was 35. And I said to him, that time that I lived with my boyfriend, he raped me, and I was kept as his sex slave for 6 months and tortured in a room. And my father's response was, yeah, I figured. So this realization, this concept of being able to put my family in perspective and then finally saying, "Oh, I divorce you." I don't need that. I don't need people in my life who don't care about me that much. I don't need that. It changes you. It liberates you. Every healing journey is different. So in 2015, I published this book. I stopped being the secret keeper for my family. I stopped being the secret keeper for everybody. And I came out and said, this is the filth that they did to me. This is what was done to me. And it wasn't about me versus the world. I thought it was. That's the abuse talking. I thought it was me versus the world. And I realized instead, every healing journey is different. But I had a lot of people calling me after reading Broken. Oh my God, are you okay? I just need to talk to you. You all right? My friend at the time, she read Broken and she messaged me. She just called me. And I'm like, yes. And she's like, I'm reading Broken. Okay. I know you're fine. She goes, I see you every day almost. I know you're okay. All right. How can I help you? And she's like, I just read this part in the book and I just have to talk to you for a minute so I know you're okay. So two people had reached out to me. And I went, yeah, I'm okay. So I realized so many people were tuning in to find out, oh my God, what happened? Are you okay? Because of how I left the book. I left the book going, no, I'm not going to tell you. That's a spoiler. Read the book. Read the book. Buy my book. Read it. So I had a lot of people messaging me. And I decided the best way to resolve that problem was through my blog at the time called Exploratory Dialogues. And Exploratory Dialogues. Wow, this is like a video turning into whole who am I? I haven't really done one, and it's nice because I feel like I spent a lot of time not talking about this. Wow, it's been a long time since I've talked about it. So I started Exploratory Dialogues, which is a blog off of my first website, angelabchrysler.com, where I start detailing the trauma sessions and the shadow working and the perspective. Wow, it was so long ago, 2015. And I did that for a few years until I started to live. I started to get out of my bedroom. And I started to use something called gardening. I did something different. I got out of therapy one day. It was very early in my therapy sessions. And it was when I was talking to my therapist about my brother beating me. And it was a realization during that session that I loved my brother. That under all the hate and anger and rage, I loved him. And I looked up to him and he did that to me. And I was shaking. My whole body was just shaking. I'm 4'11", by the way. So me being angry is not a big deal. So, and I know a lot of people are terrified of their own anger. And my therapist and I talked a lot about, so I got to show you what I'm doing right now because I'm distracted. I have ADHD, by the way. Let me see if I can show you. This is the fuzz. This is the fuzz. And I'm talking to you and I just see this and I'm like, oh my God, I got to touch this fuzz. So this is what I'm, the fuzz. Okay, I'll stop playing with my cat's fuzz. Here's my fuzz. So I'm like not paying attention because I'm a cat lover, a lurophile, and I have ADHD, and I'm like fuzz, and I just so back to my story. I was very angry, and my then husband proposed that we swing by and pick up some stuff at the gardens. So we grabbed some plants. I got home, and I just grabbed, and I think he bought. This is a grandiose narcissist being nice, by the way. That was him being nice. They can be nice, legitimately nice. But he wanted to make me feel better. So he stopped by at the nursery, and we picked up some plants. And I got home, and I was just so angry. I went out in the back. I grabbed a little hand shovel, and I started digging at the earth. And I dug at the earth. I mean, I just cut into it and slammed it, and I poured all of my rage into the earth. And I realized how healthy this was, because I can't hurt the earth. She can take it. Gaia can take it. So I gave it to her. I gave her all of it, and I could feel her as if she was calling to me, saying to me, this is my witchy side coming out. Yeah, honey, I can take it. Give it to me. I'll take it all. And I just poured all my rage and hate, and I screamed. It took me an hour to dig this hole. And when I was done, I was exhausted, and I was covered in mud and sweat and tears. And I just stood at this hole, and I grabbed this rose, and I dropped it into the earth. And I felt this release of just, okay, Gaia, and I give unto thee all of my pain, so that you may make it into something beautiful. And I took a hose and I filled the hole with water. And then I took the dirt and I filled it in. And the hate and the rage was out of me. All of it. That's called transmutation of trauma. I transmuted my pain and rage into a garden. So I did it again. I went back to therapy. We did more shadow work. We talked about the next hate, the next pain. I got home. I planted another rose. By the time I was done, I had over 20,000 plants, 50 rose bushes, 9 different themed gardens, 200 strawberry plants, a vegetable garden, 12 lilac trees, 30 raspberry bushes, 3 pear trees, 12 clematis, 1 peach tree. For 9/11, I wanted 2. My husband said no. I said 2, and I'm still going to get it. So next time I get my forever home, I'm planting 2 peach trees, 1 for each tower. Because I owe a tower. I then took up meditation, yoga, and Tai Chi, and I had a garden with which to do this in. This was the first healing garden. I stopped doing the shadow work because it wasn't the right way to skin that cat. God, that's such a horrible thing to say. Why would we ever say that? I just need to fuss. Oh, you know your babies. Oh, you know your babies. You know your babies. You know your babies. You know your voice. Voice. Why would you ever say that? No, I do not believe that. I do not believe that you should ever, well, skin a cat, but I do not believe that shadow work, trauma dumping, and emotional flooding is the right way to handle problems. So I came up with a new concept that was less invasive, more effective, gentler, gentle healing. Gentle healing. That's what I need to advertise. Gentle healing. And I used something that I call the Rorschach print perspective, which is a concept I invented when I was 20 because of 9/11. And like 3 months after 9/11, I invented the Rorschach print perspective. And I took that when I was in my 40s, and I put together my own self-care regimen. I put together my own program to supplement the talk therapy because the talk therapy was inadequate. And I tweaked it, perfected it, used it, ran myself through the system over and over and over again. And then I tweaked it, found another flaw, learned more about psychology, pieced it all together. I have 28 years of psychology in me. I started studying in 1995 when I was 15 years old because I realized when I was 15 that all my abusers had something in common. They were all stupid and uneducated. And I realized if I just become smarter than them, more educated than them, and if I study psychology, I will be able to get away from the assholes. I never thought to use psychology to actually heal me. However, I just wanted to outsmart and understand the people who were abusing me. So I thought I was normal. I didn't realize I was sick. I was adamant that the sick was the people around me. They're the ones abusing me. They were the sick ones. So I used psych to navigate their abuse and get around it. And after 28 years of studying philosophy, psychology, and sociology, I am a pro at navigating abusers. This is why I am the queen of the darkness. And then I realized that in 2015 that I had all the tools required to build my own program. And because I have informal training, and dissociative identity disorder, I was able to see a perspective on my healing that I was able to see a perspective in psychology that isn't taught in books. And that unique perspective, I'll share it with you because it's really cool. So at the time, I had 4 alters in my core. The 4 alters were Bergen, Imagination, Bergen, Imagination, Joanna, Anna, and Kaman. And I am Angela. I am the core. I am the first. I am the proper. So when I was 8, Joanna took over and my subconscious suppressed me in the subconscious mind where I lived for 34 years. And my Joanna was in charge. But when Joanna needed to be on steroids, when she needed to kick things up, Colin would take over. Colin was my warrior god. Oh God, she was vicious. And see, the problem is it a problem? I'm a pacifist. Joanna, no, not Joanna. Colin's not. Colin's not a pacifist. So when I needed to fight, Colin would take over and I could step out of the pacifist role, preserve my ethics, fight the fight I needed to fight, and then resume my life as Joanna. Joanna would take the brunt of the abuse, all the abuse. And then when it finally tipped to the point where she couldn't take it anymore, Colin would come out, fight the fight, and rescue us, and then we'd be okay again. Berrigan was the masculine in my identity. Ironically, he never fought. The masculine never fought. The masculine in my personality was in charge of comfort. Berrigan was my comfort. Berrigan comforted me. That's what the masculine was for. Wow, that's deep. I have a lot of work to do on that. As in to explore, like, wow, why would I use the masculine as a form of comfort? So, and then in 2022, Imagination was born. She split and she came out. And Imagination is my sunshine. This is Imagination. She is my gentle nymphic sunshine. She is my witch and my hippie side, the part that my family hated more than anything. So she was the first part of me that was suppressed. Well, second part. So it was Angela was suppressed and Imagination were suppressed. So it was just Berrigan, Colin, and Joanna running the show. Berrigan became a source of comfort. Colin did all the fighting because she's not a pacifist. And Joanna took all the brunt of it. So Joanna was the one with all the mental disorders. just Joanna, so that when I switched, I could step into a life, into a conscious mind, free of mental disorder. So I was able to PTSD trigger. Suddenly I didn't have PTSD trigger. It was astounding. I would be sitting there working on something and a firework would go off and my daughter would like, "Mom, are you okay?" I'm like, "Why?" And she'd be like, "There's fireworks." Oh my God, I didn't even notice it. I'm imagination right now. It was only Joanna who had PTSD. So I got to experience life without PTSD. I got to experience life without borderline personality disorder. I got to see what life was like outside of the mental disorder. And I got to see what it looked like inside of it. And I could compare. Because of my dissociative identity disorder, I had the perspective of being able to experience four different personalities and experience life as each different conscious mind. It was extraordinary. And that fueled with what I knew about psychology. I was able to develop this unique perspective on psychology that does not yet exist. So I was blogging all of this information out, 8 years of it, where I'm depicting all the stages of healing. My alters reached a stage where they realized that they're whole, they came out, they revealed themselves, they felt safe enough that they could start to do their own mental work. I had to do mental work for Colin. I had to do mental work for Joanna. Berrigan did not need mental work. Imagination did not need mental work. I then pulled Angela out. Angela came out twice, and Angela stutters. My stuttering comes back every now and then since the integration. Integration is when somebody with multiple personality disorder brings basically the personalities all stop separating and you integrate, and the core personality takes over again, and the other personalities mold into one personality, and you go back to having one conscious mind. Multiple personality disorder, dissociative identity disorder, is really dissociative consciousness splits. It's when your conscious mind becomes two conscious minds. So one subconsciousness runs all the different conscious minds. That is really what is taking place with dissociative identity disorder. Your subconscious stays the same for all of them, but the subconsciousness is the one in the background pulling and operating which one is going to go on the front as the conscious mind. And it's the conscious mind that contains all the data required to run and operate the show. Extraordinary. The memory banks are all plugged in to access each of its own. It's extraordinary. So I got to see what the subconscious looked like from a different point of view, not from something that was given to me 200 years ago from a textbook, Compliments of Freud. I got to see what subconscious minds look like from a dissociative identity point of view, understanding psychology from what I read, from what I studied, while experiencing it as a multiple. I got to see what it looked like when you navigate and hop around between the personalities. When the core finally emerges and says, "I don't need you guys anymore. You're screwing everything up. I'm in charge now." It was extraordinary. So when I figured all this stuff out, it greatly expedited my healing. Now, I keep saying the word healing, and this is where I realized that it wasn't healing I was doing, it was transformation. And healing is when you recover from a wound without changing the core person. Your leg has a cut in it. The leg stays the same. The cut heals. You might have a scar, but the leg never changes. What I was doing was transformation so that I was becoming an entirely different person. And really what I was doing was reviving my identity that was taken from me. It was revival, it was transformation, and it was healing all at the same time. So when I say triadic healing, It is really the revival, the restoration, or the transformation, and the healing, all in those different parts. And when we think about healing, we think it's just, oh, I have a boo boo. And you just want it to be better. And it doesn't work that way. When you are so completely malformed, psychologically deformed over your traumas, you end up not aware of the big picture. So I blogged all of this, and I, in 2021, met and fell in love with the love of my life. Um, I refer to him often as my imp, my VIP, my perfect fifth. And he laid himself down for me and said, use my body to heal, use my home to heal. Oh, and I did. And a year of healing was spent with him, where he turned his home into my second healing garden. The work I did there was transformative. It was really leaps and bounds. And there was a lot of trauma shrapnel. And when I was done, I wasn't done. We ended up having to give each other space because my trauma healing became that severe that I needed isolation. And being alone is very much part of healing, whether you like it or not. And this is the hard part. Being alone is part of healing because it's not you versus your trauma. It's not you versus your past. It isn't you versus the world. It isn't you versus your abuser. It is not your perspective versus your abuser's perspective. It is you versus yourself. Because when you are abused, the very first thing that happens is the abuser requires your cooperation. So they hijack you. They take your subconsciousness away from you. They take your identity away from you. They condition you so that you actually get triggered when you're around your own personality. That is big, and that is a huge part of what trauma is. That's it right there. That's it. When you are so traumatized over your own personality that when you see your identity, it becomes your PTSD trigger. That's really what you're doing. So fuck the abuser, fuck the world, fuck everything around you. What we are really talking about is you taking back you and reconditioning yourself not to get triggered over yourself. It's a big deal. It's a lot of work. It's not easy. You know it's not easy. I know it's not easy. But that's the big picture. That's really what you're up against. Because your parents, your family, everyone who turned on you, conditioned you to associate bad things are going to happen to you if you behave like you. Oh, you're here, you get beaten. Oh, you're acting like your identity, you're rejected, you're abused, you're neglected, you're ignored, you're rejected. Eventually, you start to associate abuse with being yourself. So these whole memes out there going, just be yourself. Huge PTSD trigger for so many of us. You can't be yourself because then you'll be rejected, beaten, raped, abused, tortured. So I wrote all of this. I'm a writer, first and foremost. I have 4 published books. I document everything. I continue to write and journal. And I realized that as I came to the end of my journey, that things were winding down. I was well on my way to being almost done with this stage of recovery, and my healing was coming to an end. And I was going, okay, what do I do? What do I do with my life? So I read books on what kind of a job I wanted. and I was picking, I had chosen the boyfriend, the love of my life that I wanted. I I had chosen him. I did choose him. I'm still choosing him. I had chosen who I want in my life, what community, what friends, what social life. And when I got down to the job, I realized that what I had created was priceless. Fucking priceless. So I realized it was my life work. I've been working on it since I was 15 years old. So I started wrapping it all up, condensing it all down, putting all the content out there, and I made the third healing garden. And that's where you are. This is the third healing garden. This is the area and the space where I give you all the tools. Okay, this is what I learned. And I was raped on May 10th of 2022, 2023. Look at the date. It's June 6th. I had the tools in place. So on May 10th, I grabbed my tools and I put them to work. And in 1 week, I was smiling, socializing, visiting, laughing. And I had people going, a week. Yeah. That's how good my program is. When I say I'm Queen of the Darkness, I fucking mean it. And it's June 6th. Yesterday was June 5th. So I'm what, 3, 4 weeks out. And I walk in New York City barefoot. Because I'm that much of a badass. Actually, I hate shoes and I like to be grounded. And I live in New York. What are you going to do? So when I started my journey in 2015, I went, wow, I'm a badass. Look at what I survived. And then in 2020, I went, wow, I'm a badass. Look at what I survived. And in 2022, as the second healing garden came to a close, I went, wow, I'm a badass. Look at what I survived. Now, I realized that all of that was way down here, and I'm way up here now. And I'm going, I'm a badass. I pass in and out of hell all the time, and it doesn't faze me because I'm Queen of the Darkness. It's when you walk into hell and you walk out again, and you can act like, yeah, it doesn't faze me. Because you understand psychology and the subconsciousness that good. So that's what I teach other people, how to be this. I teach you how to be a badass. In the last year, I stepped into the way of the Buddha. I became celibate. I really turned toward the spiritual arts because I realized no matter how much I had learned with psychology, I was still in pain. And I couldn't figure it out. I'm like, I don't understand it. I've done everything in psychology. Why am I still in pain? And I realized it's just because I was neglecting my intuition and my energy. So I turned more into the meditation. I found Reiki. I found Buddhism and Hinduism. I went back to my religious studies. And I realized, according to the Buddha, I am not a Buddhist, by the way, nor am I a practitioner of Hinduism. I believe in the nature. That is my religion. I am a religion of one. I tell people about my religion. You are more than welcome to delve into my spirituality if you want. It's open to all. I am currently a congregation of one. And it is my own personal interpretation of what I desire for my own religious desires and pursuits and needs. And I answer to no one. And it doesn't matter if I believe it or not. It doesn't matter if other people believe it or not. I made it for me. So, for curiosity's sake, and I talk a lot about it in my witchy corner, I basically believe that I believe in the nature. I am sister of the sun, sister of the moon, sister of the rain, the earth, the forests, and the sea. They are my sisters. And I believe that, well, we are gods and we are all goddesses. Because if you were to define what a god or a goddess is, there are two definitions. One, one is they have the power to create or destroy. Humans, people, have the power to create and destroy. We do it all the time. There is not a single thing in our possession that did not once begin as imagination. Somebody imagined this one day, and so it bees. This is creation, if I've ever seen it. And if you don't think we have the power to destroy, Putin, Ukraine, enough said. We have the power to create and to destroy. I believe that we are gods who have forgotten that we are gods. So we wield this power of ours irresponsibly, very irresponsibly. The second qualification of whether or not you are a god or a goddess is whether or not you're immortal. I believe in the power of reincarnation, and this is how it's done, according to my Church of One. I believe in an energy pool. This energy pool is currently over at CERN right now, where they're poking at it and playing with it in antimatter form. And every religion in the world, every spirituality in the world has stumbled upon the energy pool. Christians pray to it, and they call it the Holy Spirit. Hinduism and Buddhism define it in the chakras, and they meditate toward it. Wiccans and pagans call upon it when they do their spell work. Abraham Hicks pulls on it when they do their manifestations. Atheists dismiss it and call it just a gut intuition. Physicists study it and play with it. There's a meme going around. We're all calling it and arguing about what to call it, but no one's denying that it doesn't exist. I don't think I said that right at all, so I'm going to try that again. We all agree it exists. We just can't agree on what to call it. So, in my school of belief, the energy pool is the core. It is the one unit. It is a frequency, a vibrational frequency that is pure energy that exists around all of us, in us, through us, in every object, in animals. I believe that when we die, there are three stages. There is the stage of the energy pool. There is the process and the state of individuality. And there is being stuck between the two places. The energy pool is the accumulate conglomerate that is all around us. It flows through us. It is the energy that we breathe in and we inhale, and we're pulling it from the energy pool, and we're cycling it through our body, and we're pulling it through our own energy cycles, and we are pushing it out. And when you have that really bad feeling like something is wrong, that's all the energy pool. And when we die, we return to it. Just like in Star Trek, Deep Space Nine, when Odo returns to his people at the end. It's the energy pool. And when we are born, we extract and we pull from the energy pool. And we merge, and that is the soul inside of us. So that when we are born, we have multiple energies of other lives, of other people, all circling inside of us, making up who we are. That is our soul. That is who we are. And yeah, you might come back as a cat. You might come back as something else. And we do this process over and over again. Trauma messes with our energy pool. Suicide and murder. If you have a violent death, it can prevent you from leaving the individuality process and returning to the energy pool. And we call those ghosts. People who are stuck in limbo between the individuality and returning to the energy pool. I live, die, breathe, and am committed to preserving the energy pool. Abraham Hicks, when they talk about the power of manifestation, they refer to the vortex. They're referring to the energy pool, how to access the energy pool, how to step into it, how to flow with it, how to return to it. People of the higher dimension, spirituals who are seeking out higher answers and enlightenment, are actually just seeking the energy pool and how it works. We are gods who have forgotten that we have the power of gods. We are behaving like men. Man, human race. Don't get into gender wars with me right now. I'm not in the mood for PC. That being said, this is my perspective on spiritualism. This is my perspective on religion. Now, here's the fun part. The energy pool does not look the same for every culture in every area and every region. Mars has its own energy pool. No, it's not its own energy pool. It's the same energy pool. But when Mars comes in, Mars brings its energy. And when Venus comes in, she brings her energy. And when Pluto and Jupiter come in and Mercury, they bring in their energy. And it just meshes with the energy of Earth. And it affects the way it shifts, which is why astrology works, which is why the spirituality works. And over in Rome, there's like this feeling. And that feeling evolved into a culture, into a religion. And over in India, there was a feeling, and that feeling is the energy pool. And it evolved into a culture, and it evolved into a religion. And that is how they interpret the energy pool on their corner of the energy pool. And in the Americas, the people here felt it, and it evolved into their culture and their feelings. It evolved into their religions. And that is how they view their corner of the energy circle, of the energy pool. And the Celts and the Welsh, and the Scandinavians, the Japanese, Chinese, Korean, African, Australian, we all feel the pool differently based on where we're located. The pool feels different in New York State than it does down in Louisiana. And the pool feels different in California. And boy, does it feel different up in Alaska. But it's the same energy pool. And we're all arguing over what it looks like because we all have different perspectives. So I believe in the energy pool, and I live to preserve the energy pool. And I believe in living downstream so that I can step and slip into the vortex and live and exist inside the energy pool. This is the last stage of healing. When I realized the psychology wasn't working, no matter how much I maxed it out, it wouldn't work. Because being aligned to your vibrational frequency and tapping into that energy pool is the other half of this. Now, everything's a spectrum. You have people who are really tuned in to this pool, and you have people who are absolutely just turned down to it. They can't feel it. They just can't. Everything's a spectrum. So you have a lot of people who are really tuned into this pool, and you have people over here who abuse, not all of them, some of them abuse the people over here who don't feel the pool. And you have people over here who abuse these people because they don't believe in the pool. Perspectives, people. Respect. You can't force perspective on other people. We only have 5 senses with which to take in the world and an intuition. That's all you got. Five stupid little senses and an intuition. And those 6 elements, when brought together, not one works the same. So, why are you arguing with somebody else over what their experience is, over what their belief is, over what their opinion is, when their 6 senses, there's no way they're going to be matched to anyone else? We all are different. This is the core of respecting a person's beliefs and differences. My imp astounds me. He cannot feel the energy pool. All of his friends can. We'll get around each other. And he's seeing me do this, where we'll all like play with the energy and people will hug me. I've had people worship me. I've had people walk up to me, go, "Oh my God, you are not of this world." And they have worshiped me. I have had people, it's a weird life I have. That being said, when I find somebody who has the energy like I have, I show them how to play with it and I pull them into me and we play with it. And at events, I'll get 4 or 5 people around and we'll do a massive hugging circle where we will all pool and play and pull the energy together. And my beautiful imp will stand on the side and watch and not judge. My beautiful imp is over here and I am all the way over here. It's extraordinary. It's the one thing about us that is absolutely polar opposite. I respect that he cannot feel or see or sense the energy pool. And he respects my witchy ways. And he observes quietly with curiosity and does not try and tell me that his perspective is better or different. And I'm over here looking at him going, isn't this interesting? Somebody who exists fully and completely and can't feel the pool. It blows my mind away. It's extraordinary. So I took all that I learned and I put it into the healing garden. And when I did that, I realized very quickly that spirituality is a huge part of this. It's the other side of this. It's the flip side of the coin. I realized that's when I've invented triadic healing, is because there's the subconscious side of it, the psychology of understanding how the cognitive core works with its alignment. That's my Rorschach print perspective that I invented when I was 20. And then there's the spirituality. But then there's this awareness with the conscious mind. So it's the awareness of the conscious mind. That's you being aware of all this. And then there's the actual working knowledge of what you're able to do with the energy pool and the psychology of it, or I'm sorry, the ethereal knowledge of it. And then you have the psychology itself, the subconscious mind. So it's very much a holistic hybrid. It is triadic healing, where it takes all 3 points: the the subconscious psych side, the ethereal spiritual side, and the awareness of the conscious mind, all to align and balance and bring it together for optimal mental health. That's what I do. In addition, the triadic healing also is restoration of the self, transformation of the old to the new, and then healing the wounds. Again, 3 triads all coming to work together. When I do these videos, I'll say something and I love it so much that I want to go back on the video. So I have little timestamps where when I articulate something so clearly that I want to pull it out and write an article about it, I put a timestamp. So if you ever look at my videos and you see the notes and you're like, what are all these things? It's the timestamps, bookmarks where I'm saying to myself, oh, I want to go back. Those are bookmarks. So, excuse me. That's where you come in. That's where you come in. You can dabble in one or the other. I don't recommend it. If you do, you're missing out on an entire. That's like going, I just want the left leg, please. I don't want the right leg. No, I like hopping. Okay. So I really don't recommend like cherry picking. Do the full program, get the full experience, but you don't have to. For those of you who maybe you are really tuned into the ethereal world, maybe you're an ethereal walker. Okay. Maybe what you're missing is the subconscious mind. And we just got to get the consciousness up. So we get your consciousness up, we just make you aware, and then maybe you just need help with the cognitive core alignment. All right, done. Maybe you are a scientist and maybe you're a psychologist and maybe you dabble a little bit with Reiki, and you follow astrology, but you really need to work on your intuition. Maybe, you've maxed everything out, but you're going, look, I'm still just missing something and I just don't know what's wrong. And I've done the psych work and this is where I was. I did the psych work. I've done everything. I don't understand what's wrong with me. Why am I still broken if I'm fixed? Because you're not aligned with your intuition. So I have that's it. I came up with it was actually Imagination's idea. She invented it in 2022, retrograde. It was 16 May 2022, the last day of the retrograde last year, and it was hell. And Imagination was born during the retrograde. Wow, very powerful day. Very, very powerful day. And my visions began immediately that day. Imagination's the goddess of manifestation. There's just no way around it. She's the goddess of manifestation. That's what she does. And she started having visions like the day it started. I'm still having visions, but they've definitely slowed down. Imagination was having them all the time. And I think it was more of a catch up where she burst into existence. Really, she did. She just kind of into existence during the retrograde. And she saw everything and she could see all the past and all the future all at the same time. And it was funny because for a while, the cognitive core, and the other alters were like, yeah, she thinks she's a goddess. But we totally gaslit her. And we had a lot of shadow work and figuring out to do. And then it was actually very recently, thank you, Dawn. Thank you, Dawn. It was very recently that I had a now very good friend of mine, a very, very, very important person to me. She helped me through, she encouraged me and supported me while I was doing the work of I'm this very scientific minded, subconscious, psychological like guru. This is what I do. And all this spirituality was happening. And I had this altar walking around going, I'm the goddess of manifestation. Not like that at all. Wow, that's interesting. So that was my core doing an impersonation of one of my altars, and I botched it. Never done that before. I can't pull off an imagination. Wow. I don't think I ever can because I'm not her anymore. I'm all of them. So it was very difficult work. It was very, very difficult because I did not have any faith. I did not have any belief. I did not give any credit to spirituality. And now I am of the very firm opinion that spirituality and scientists, like every other religion out there, are arguing over the truth and whose perspective is correct. So I took all of this information and I poured it into the healing garden, and then I created the Witch's Corner, a small little segment that started off small, now it's growing big, where I went, no, the witch is part of me. And I started nurturing this supernatural side of me. And I found this massive balance because this is my vibrational frequency. This is my truth. Every one of us is our own frequency. This is the other part of my religion is we all have our own frequency inside of us. Our own solid vibrational note. One note that is all ours. I am the key of E. Just for the record, I make a lot of music theory jokes. And for those of you who are into music theory, you are my people. Because I am of the key of E. That is me. I am E major. It is the most beautiful, beautiful chord in the world. It has 4 sharps in its signature, and it's breathtaking. Oh, it is breathtaking. I love the key of E major. So that is my vibrational tune. And when I meet somebody I don't like, It's just because, dude, you're messing up my song, man. And that's it. Every time we meet someone we don't like, they're just messing with our song. You're jiving away to some really awesome tune, and you got some asshole walking around screaming in some, like, dude, come on. And that's really it. Is when you're jiving and you're just like, I remember this one day, I was like blasting out to my Lady Gaga, and the guy outside started blasting 1940s music. I love 1940s music, but not while I'm listening to Lady Gaga. And then the guy down the street felt this was the time for salsa. Love salsa, not while I'm listening to Lady Gaga. And so it was salsa down there and 1940s under the sea prom night and Lady Gaga and Bad Romance happening in here. And that's what I mean by for vibrational frequency is you have your tune. And there's going to be people who are on the same music mode with you. They're all part of your scale. They're all part of your song. And that's it. We're just looking for people who are part of our song. Come on, speak with me now. Get on the same page. That's all we are doing here. We are looking for people. Life after life, cycle after cycle. We are just researching for our song. Oh, God damn it. I'm born again. Damn it. I gotta go back and look for my song. Where's my song, people? And that's it. I'm looking for my song, people. And then I find my imp. And there is a reason why I call him my perfect fifth. It's because he is my song, people. He is so perfectly my song, people, that there are days I look at him and go, are you an octave? Are you the same note as me, just a different pitch? Sexy, sexy. So now my healing has come to an end. And you hear a lot of people going, it's a never ending process. It never ends. No. No. You find somebody who has made it this far in their healing. No. There's maintenance. The journey is much longer than a lot of people think it is, but there is an end. There is a definite end. It's when you find your vibrational core and you are tuned the fuck in. And nothing sways you from that. And you are solid and you are centered. And this is who you are. And nothing can ever take you away from that vibrational truth ever again. Because you know who you are. Because you know what you are. And you are solid. That is steadfast. And that is confidence. That is who I am now. So that I could be raped. And I know my truth. And that rape doesn't shake me. Because I've done the fucking work. And you too can be like this. Every fucking one of you. This is achievable. It's just knowing your vibrational core. It's understanding exactly who you are so solidly that you even know your note. I know I am an E major. So the question is, how did I find out which note I was? Exactly which note, right down to I am E major. Wind chimes. I love wind chimes. And there are music theory. I blame 100% the music theory. This is, if you are not music minded, I'm sorry. I really am. If you do not understand music, I really have a deep, I feel really bad for you. You are missing out on an entirely different world. People who are musicians, people who understand music, and it's interesting because my imp never studied music theory. He asked me some very basic questions about music theory the other day that just, my mind imploded. I went, now, I need to explain. My imp could be a professional salsa dancer. He's been dancing for 30 years. He was trained by the best in New York City. I think his name was Tito Fuente. And yeah, if you know salsa, you just went, oh, yeah, That was his teacher. So when I say to you, my imp can dance, oh, I need a minute. My imp can dance. Oh my God. It's the most beautiful thing in the world. And my God, does he sing? My God, does he sing? And I don't know if he can read music. I'll have to ask him. But no, he doesn't know music theory. Can you read music? Yeah, I don't know if he can read music. So he was asking me some questions about music theory the other day, and it was mind blowing. I'm like, how can you dance and sing? Well, no, he also played the cello. Yeah, he must. He played the cello. You must know how to read music. So he just didn't study music theory. So he doesn't understand the physics of music. And that's really it. There's a whole physics and a science to music. Oh my God. I love it. And I wanted to be a composer for a long time. Sorry. So I studied music theory from the time I was 4 years old. Oh, you probably noticed. I'll show you. I noticed it. So if you look at my fingers, you see how you see how that's bent? I never broke my hand. I was 4 years old and started to play piano. I studied piano since I was 4 years old. And when you play, you stretch. So my hand actually developed this curvature to hug the piano keys because I've been playing since I was 4 years old. So that's my knowledge base of music theory. We're talking it's expansive. And I got up to I'm going to talk music theory. I always talk music theory whenever I get into this. So I got up to 12 tone row with Arnold Schoenberg and atonality. Atonality, 12 tone row with Arnold Schoenberg. For those of you who are not musically inclined, in the 1950s, there was this massive break from music that went from hormonal music to atonal, tonal, atonal, harmonic, non-harmonic music that occurred, and boom, rock music was born. This is what rock music came out of. Rock music is a lot of atonality, which is where my classically trained brain went, yeah, no thanks. And I shied way away from that because I did not like it. I studied 13ths, I studied seconds, and I studied sevenths, which are all jazz chords, which you see when you get into jazz and atonality and Schoenberg. And the 13th chord, or the augmented 13th. Now that's something. So I was starting to play around with the augmented 13th, and it was a whole nother level of music. Like classical music is here with music theory. And Beethoven and Mozart, and oh my God, I love this stuff. Like this is candy to me. But then you get over into jazz, and then you find seconds and sevenths and 13ths, and everything's augmented, and you go, oh, holy shit. Like music is like, we're gonna take all these 5 songs and put them into one at the same time. And then from that came, boom, dissonance and atonality. And that slid into the wonderful world of rock music. And I went, no thanks. No thanks. I just, the cognitive dissonance hurt me. That's it. I barely could tolerate Bernstein for a while. He's replying, and I'm just like, I, he's very, he's very analytical. He's not abstract at all. He does not live in the world of metaphor. It breaks my heart because he cannot understand Shakespeare. And I'm like, no, because he's so scientific minded over here. He's a Harvard grad. So he's like over here with his highly scientific, highly evolved brain. And I'm over here talking about witches, brews, spells, the moon, and, and spirituality and meditation. So that all being said, I never get a yes and no answer from him because nothing is black and white. I always get this very colorful, define what you mean by this. And then he'll define it and then he'll so I cannot say, "Oh, he can read music." I have to read his story to figure out if he can read music or not. Um, I think he can read music, but because he can, like, play he can look at it, read it, and then he can play it out, but he doesn't understand it. And, reading music so you can read letters A, B, C, D, E, F, G, or you can explain the etymology of the letter A and how it evolved from one alphabet to the next. That's etymology. Music theory is to music notes what etymology is to words. So you can read a book, but that doesn't mean you know etymology. There. So when you read music, you can read the little black notes on a page and follow and know which things to book. That's reading. But that doesn't mean you know the music theory, which is the etymology, the what is all the mathematical physics happening here. So when I studied all of this, it just launched into this massive eye-opening world that was just extraordinary. Yeah, it really was extraordinary. I'm off on a massive tangent, and I can't remember why. The frequency. So I got wind chimes. Right. So I was telling you about I got wind chimes, and because I was a music major, I wasn't just like I want wind chimes. There's nothing that aggravated me more than when I heard wind chimes and they were not tuned. They were just noise. And I love wind chimes. I collect them, I adore them. And I made it very clear, look, we're doing wind chimes. And they had better be tuned to the key of E and to the key of A. I wanted A major and E major because I wanted a seventh. I wanted a seventh. I didn't want three, I wanted four. So I deliberately got A, C, E, E, G, B. So I had a seventh. So, and I love, oh God, but E major, E major. So I went into the store and I would try this experiment sometime. Make sure you find professional wind chimes that are tuned to the actual key signatures. All right. Hit them. Which ones make your whole body purr? And which ones make you cringe? So I went through all of them. Oh, I would spend so much time. My favorite thing to do is walk into this farm shop and they had wind chimes. They had giant, like 5 foot lawn wind chimes. And I would hit them and oh my God, the resonation, that frequency. Oh my God. I just remember my music teacher would play piano and I would crawl underneath the grand piano while he played and I would just, oh my God, having the music surround all of me. I lived inside the frequencies. I was just a blanket of frequency. I forgot that I had done this. So when you heal, you remember things. So yeah, I played around with the wind chimes until I found E major. That just no no harmony resonated more perfectly into my tone. So I'm in the key of E. That's my frequency. And once you realize what your frequency is, everything else just fits it or it doesn't. Once you realize you're a harmony, that you're a tonic. 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 Tonic is the first step of all of any chord, of any scale. So in E major, tonic is the E. It feels so good. It feels so right. I never in a million years thought my music theory would ever come back. I never in a million years thought I would ever use it for anything other than music. But it's life itself. So, as my healing journey came to an end and I started putting together my programs for the Healing Garden and the master classes, I realized very quickly that one of my problems that I had was that one of the information that I was bringing together, one of the things that I was pulling together was this realization that there's more to healing. So when I was writing the conclusion of my chapters and the last section of the course, I realized there's this whole other level of healing happening still. So I turned to my website, Exploratory Dialogues, this time on thehealinggarden.org, anashealinggarden.org, and I started documenting, okay, this is a new stage of healing. This is a new stage of healing. This is a new stage of healing. And I started to track and journal what the stages of healing are. And yesterday, I found the next one. This last weekend, I have found nothing but these stages of healing. And it's all untreaded territory. It's all new. I've never been here before. So I'm still trying to figure it out. And as I learn more about these later stages of healing, it's not so much healing, it's more like waking up and exploring myself like I've been reborn. It really has been feeling like a rebirth. And it's tuned into, it's all happening during the strawberry moon. It really hit during the full moon of this cycle. And I don't know that much about astrology yet, but I've got all my astrology friends going, oh my God, what's happening to you with you right now is like to see your chart and lining it up with the strawberry moon. Like I am in sync with astrology. Like I am living, my life is aligned. When you get so close to the alignment, that's why astrology is wrong sometimes, is because you aren't aligned with your frequency. And that's why you're in pain. When you, fun fact, when you get aligned with your frequency, you step into the vortex and suddenly you're aligned with the stars and the charts. And suddenly your life literally is in the stars. It's extraordinary. Like the day I was raped, May 10th, I spoke to three psychics around that same time after. And they were like pulling their charts. And the hour that I was raped was when Uranus was in Scorpio. My Uranus is in Scorpio. If you follow astrology, your mind just exploded. If you don't follow astrology, I'm trying to explain how this works. When Uranus is Scorpio, I can't even begin to explain. It basically means that you're being tested. It means that, and it's also occurring during the Mercury retrograde. So Mercury is basically the time when the frequencies are so thrown up, the vibrations are on massive, massive shuddering. It's being ripped apart. The vibrational frequency is just being shaken up. Imagine we live in a snow globe. We live in a snow globe, people. And every time Mercury retrograde comes in, the snow globe gets shaken up. And if you're not aligned and in tune to that frequency, you're going to get tossed around like a little snowflake. But if you're in tune with your frequency, you're going to be the little snowman going. So you can be the little snowflake going, ah, inside the snow globe, or you can be snowman inside of it going. And in the middle of this Mercury retrograde, I became the snowman. I started off going, ah, and then I figured out the work, figured out the frequency, I slid into it, and I went, and I became the snowman. And this is like the best analogy of Mercury retrograde ever. This really is. This is like Mercury retrograde in a nutshell. You're a snow globe. And then you stop shaking. Mercury stops in the snow globe, and all the snow comes down, and people are like, "Oh my god, that was hell! That was hell!" It's like a big earthquake, and everyone's looking for their shit, and they're all over the place, and they're like picking up Murphy, Murphy, where are you? And you're looking all over the place, and you're picking up snowflake after snowflake, trying to, and you're the snowman. But Scorpio, Uranus moves into Scorpio, and when this happens during the retrograde, it's like it's like the neighbor kid comes over and says, "Oh, look, a snow globe," and gives it one last shake, and then breaks the snow globe. And now you're a broken snowman going on the ground, realizing the whole time that you lived in a fucking snow globe. That's a perspective shift for you. And that's what happens when Uranus moves into Scorpio. So I had these ladies pulling up my chart going, literally the hour that I was raped was the hour that Uranus moved into Scorpio. That's how aligned with the frequency I am now. So that if my chart says, so it shall be. Now I pull tarot cards. Now I'm writing my astrology, my tarot, my horoscope reading, and I have a really good one. And I'm going, got it, understood. I know what to expect tomorrow. And it tells me what I need to work on spiritually so I can get ahead of it. It's extraordinary when you align with a frequency, when you figure out what music you are, when you see the world in music, when you see the world in frequency, when you see this perspective, everything just clicks. And that's really it. I wanted to know what the Buddha saw. I wanted to know why he left his wife and children, why he would throw away his wife and children to meditate. It always bothered me. Oh, I understand it now. I have seen what the Buddha saw. I understand enlightenment. It's understanding just how big the picture really is. It is understanding that fear is only birthed out of the unknown. And that if you fear discomfort, this is really important, that you are going to fear discomfort for the rest of your life unless you literally, willingly step into discomfort. So I embraced the way of the Buddha. I lived without food. I no longer fear hunger. I lived without safety, and I did it on purpose. I no longer fear being unsafe. I realized I can protect myself. I realized I can protect my children. I lived without money in New York City for a year. I am still living in New York City without money. I no longer fear being poor. I no longer fear suffering. I don't fear rape. I don't fear pain. I have no fear. There is no unknown now. I believe in the energy pool. It might be wrong. No, it's not wrong. No, 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 no. Every core in my fiber purrs and says, no, this is it. The energy pool is real. It is. And there is no God out there. The God is inside of you. And you have the power to create and destroy. So what are you going to do? And for me, I am the goddess of manifestation. That's what I do. I create that shit. So I'm in the business of waking gods and goddesses up. I teach you how to remember that you are a god and how to tap into that power. It is not an easy road, but I will teach you how to wake up. I know how to do it. And you reach this point in your life where your pain tolerance, that's really, at the end of it, that's really what I've learned. Thank you, Amanda Rose. That's what I learned. Your pain tolerance increases. And when we think pain tolerance, we always think physical pain tolerance. I stepped on a hot coal once. I have no problem with pain. But there's also an emotional pain tolerance. And on the most of the people out there, their emotional pain tolerance is really low. So that's the way of the Buddha. That is really what I taught myself this last year, was how to increase my emotional pain tolerance. So now, being hungry, being worried, being afraid doesn't faze me. There is nothing that I want. I'm in the vortex. So, this is who I am. This is where you come into my journey. I'm probably going to try and record this video 3, 4 more times, probably every month. I'm hoping in the future it'll be less than 1 hour and 36 minutes. But yeah, I am a sage. I am an oracle. I am a goddess. I see things. I am tuned in to my intuition. I am an energy reader. I am an ethereal walker. I am the queen of the darkness. I offer one-on-one consultations. I offer individual coursework where you guys can go in, cherry pick whichever particular course you want to focus on. And I have a masterclass, which is an encompassment on how to become a sage like me and all the techniques I use to, it's an accumulation of it all. Bergen, one of my altars, used to speak with an Irish accent. You know, we couldn't figure out for the longest time. His trigger was cigarettes. I don't smoke. He does. And you heard that right, by the way. He's a he. One of my altars was a 6'1". No, I'm sorry, he was 6'2". And he was a big dude. Yeah, when I was Berrigan was fun. But and then my core, Angela, when I first came out, I had a severe stuttering problem. The stuttering has gotten much better. Every now and then I stutter, so that comes out of my videos every now and then. But the Irish accent, when it comes out, that would be Berrigan. The others, and it's all there now. It's all there. Like it's not like they're gone. They're all still there. It's just I'm me. And because the subconscious is like made up of all the parts, every now and then it comes out. So yeah, thank you. Thank you for joining me. I think I'm going to do this welcome video once a month. I really love it because there's this moment in my healing where I was able to just step back from it all and be like, perspective. All right. No, I know what this is. I know what this is exactly. This is when you're done healing and you get all the little perspective, and then you look at the big perspective and you set it aside. And then you go perspective, and you set that aside and you get it all. And then when you're all done, you have like rows and rows of all these little perspectives of 5 and 10, and they're all stacked. So they all form different opinions. And now this is the conglomerate, the mother lode of this is who I am. This is my journey. And this is my life. And I'm just going through with a checklist, going, I know who I am. So I took everything I learned, built it into the healing garden, turned it into classes and course material. And now I'm a content creator. I've always wanted to be a content creator. Really? I love blogging. I love doing articles. I love doing Facebook posts. I love doing YouTube channels. I love talking. I'm a YouTube content creator. I'm a content creator. And I love giving you treats and exercises and workshops and throwing that all over and just sharing my wisdom with you and showing, hey, give me a topic. What do you want to talk about? Pick my brain and I'll tear it apart for you. Give me your problem. I'll show you what's the issue. I am home. Now I just need to build this. Now it's time to build this. So I am Anna Imagination, owner of the Healing Guard, Queen of the Darkness. All my links are below. Follow me, love me, share me. May the kindest of words always find you.